Even though the odds have been stacked against him time and time again, Antonio Gibson won't let anything stop him from being one of the best.
And here is Gibson, and Gibson touchdown!
Ever since he was a young kid in the Atlanta burbs, Antonio has been motivated to make it big, with a humble, team-first attitude that made him unique. Although the Henry Daily Herald's Offensive Player of the Year as a senior, Antonio was overlooked coming out of high school. The problem with Antonio was his lack of care for his grades, and after slacking as a freshman and sophomore, the few colleges that were interested in him all darted. As his eventual community college coach would say, he was a 5-star recruit who wasn't recruited like one coming out of high school. The whole grade fiasco sent Antonio down a different road than normal at East Central Community College. While at ECCC, Antonio did his thing with nearly 1,700 all-purpose yards and 16 touchdowns in 2 years with the team. Not only that, but the coach that I mentioned before in Ken Karcher demanded the best out of his players on and off the field. And although being away from home and feeling lost made the process difficult, Antonio stuck with it. At ECCC, Antonio was able to learn more and more about the game and how to be at his best. In fact, Ken was one of the first people to recommend Antonio to consider changing to a running back, which initially had Antonio thinking he was crazy. Nonetheless, now that he had proved himself on the next level, Antonio was finally able to get at least some of the recognition that he deserved, as he was given the opportunity to become a Tiger out there in Memphis. Going into Memphis, Antonio not only had to learn a complicated offense, but upon that compete with some legitimate talent. And so it makes sense why he didn't rush for a single yard in his first season with the Tigers, and instead was only able to have just under 100 receiving. Typically that kind of yardage is pretty underwhelming for a junior, but in Antonio's case, it makes sense as he was pretty much just an older freshman. After practically a wash of a season as a junior, Antonio was finally given a shot to prove if he belonged in his last year. After showing out in practice during the middle of the year, the coaches were able to realize what they had in Antonio, and in turn let him start the rest of the year. Over 1,100 all-purpose yards proved that Antonio Gibson was legit as not only second team All-ACC as a receiver, but also first team as a return specialist. Not only just a good specialist, but in fact the AAC Special Teams Player of the Year. Even with a great senior year in the rear view, just like pretty much every other time, Antonio was once again overlooked, and because of it, it was looking like he was going to miss the Senior Bowl. Although a long shot, the executive director of the event in Jim Nagy, who makes sure that no deserving players are missed, found out about the stud in Antonio, and funny enough added him as a running back. Antonio was somehow invited to the Senior Bowl as a running back surprisingly enough, and took advantage of it as he was able to rush for a team-leading 68 yards on only 11 carries. Now that he got his foot in the door, Antonio took advantage of the attention as he rushed for a 4.39 second 40-yard dash at the scouting combine, and the rest is history.
The Washington Redskins select Antonio Gibson, running back, Memphis.
Going into the second day of the draft, Antonio was probably thinking that he would have to wait quite a bit before his name was called, but it seems like Washington wanted him quite a bit as they took him early third round. Funny enough, Ron Rivera even talked about the fact that the night that he found out about the hidden gem in Antonio was surprisingly enough the Senior Bowl. During the game, the team scouts and personnel kept pointing him out and it got Ron's attention. Not only that, but the Washington VP of Player Personnel and Kyle Smith said that the fact that he could play a bunch of positions was one of the major reasons that they picked up the Tiger. Going into his rookie season, Antonio was given the chance to make an almost immediate impact, and he definitely took advantage of what he got. In his first game against Philly, he didn't do too much, but the next 3 weeks made up for it as he had a touchdown in each of the games, and against Baltimore had over 120 all-purpose yards. After doing his thing in week 4, Antonio had a bit of a dry spell the next couple weeks with under 60 yards rushing and receiving combined. You think this would be a sign of times for Antonio to slow his roll, but after being given 20 carries against the Cowboys, he took full advantage of it with nearly 130 yards and a touchdown. Throughout the following 4 weeks after Antonio ran over the Cowboys, my man rushed for 7 touchdowns, with the cherry on top being a stellar 3-touchdown performance once again against Dallas. Following the great run, no pun intended, Antonio finished off the season with some decent games to cap off a solid rookie year, but had to miss 2 games after a turf toe injury in the first quarter against Pittsburgh. After coming back from the whole toe thing, Antonio was back on his A game as he had 2 straight performances over 60 yards. but struggled to finish off the year with only just over 30 yards against the eventual Super Bowl champ Bucs, as Washington was bounced out in only the first round. Although a rollercoaster ride of a season, Antonio did his thing with just under 800 rushing and 250 receiving yards, along with the rookie leading 11 touchdowns on the ground, in what is only the beginning of his NFL journey. Before we talk some more about my man Antonio, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more stuff like this, and turn on noties in order to stay tuned. But anyways, back to the video. Following a pretty solid season as a rookie, you would think that someone who was overlooked for most of his life would be satisfied, but Antonio has so much more to prove. Going into this season, Antonio is eyeing 1,000 rushing yards after trying to catch that mark the previous year, until a little injury made it a bit rough. Outside of the whole turf toe thing, Antonio was happy with his improvement throughout the year and looked at it as a learning process. That kind of talk makes it seem like Antonio has a hang on things going forward, and that his rookie performance was just the tip of the iceberg for his potential. When talking about his rookie year, he even said, "It wasn't special to me. I'm just touching the water. This year is going to be something special." When you think of special for someone with as much experience as Antonio, it's probably like 1,300 yards or something like that. But Antonio isn't joking around, and thinks it will be similar to that of Kamara and CMC. Keep in mind that not only is Kamara an absolute stud, but Christian McCaffrey was the first running back in NFL history to have both 1,000 rushing and receiving. So if Antonio is able to even come close to that kind of production, then I'm sure he's set. The idea of coming even remotely close to CMC seems outlandish, but when you take into account the similar skill sets of the two, it makes much more sense. Not only can both of them take a bunch of hits, and have solid elusiveness with the ball, but a big difference is the fact that CMC is all by himself, while Antonio has good old JD McKissic putting up nearly 600 receiving and 400 rushing in the same offense. If you combine both JD and Antonio's production, then you get CMC. So Antonio is going to have to eat into some of that yardage to do anything close to the Panther. Although it seems like a long shot, good old Kyle Allen is looking to push Antonio into a CMC-like role this year, which is a very good sign for good old Antonio. Not only is his sentiment nice to hear, but it's legitimate, as both Kyle and Ron were in Carolina during the start of CMC's rampage. So if Kyle is saying stuff like this, then he definitely thinks that Antonio has a great deal of talent, and the fact that he's comparing him to arguably the best running back in football makes me think that we're in for something special. It seems like the comparisons to CMC are no joke, as Ron is looking at Antonio as someone who could fill a very similar role for the future of the team. Although it's anything but easy, it seems like Antonio is trending towards a similar situation with Washington. With all the talk around Antonio and CMC, there are some lofty expectations this year for my man, but I really think he has what it takes to go to that next level. Is 2021 going to be the year where he goes crazy with CMC production? I don't really think so, and instead I think it's going to be the start of something special, with around 15 to 1,600 all-purpose yards as he starts to gain more and more of the offense. It's not really too crazy to think that Antonio can put up these kinds of numbers, but I'm thinking of it as almost a test to see how much of the offense he can handle. With Antonio eyeing 1,200 rushing yards and 2,000 all-purpose along with 12 touchdowns, I think this season has what it takes to be one of a kind. Anyways, what do you guys think Antonio is going to do in 2021? Comment down below your predictions and what you think of the stud. Nonetheless, it seems like Antonio is going to go off this year, and the fact that the people around him want the same thing has me very excited for what's to come. Just like good old Gibson once said, somehow I knew I was going to make it.
Memphis, they hand it to him underneath here, trying to get a big play to the edge. He's got space, and he's got speed inside the 10.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, it would be awesome if you guys could subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. Anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.